A little overview, because there have been, as you know, some significant changes. What we've now got are application of number and communication, which is what we're going to talk about this morning. And the first big change is the way in which they're assessed. No longer is there going to be a portfolio of evidence. Instead, there is now something called a controlled task, and I'll look at what we mean by control conditions in a second, and then a short confirmatory test. All right? And we'll look at some examples later on. So that's for number and communication. For digital literacy, which replaces the current ICT, all right, there are 6 strands. So there's digital responsibility, etc., right the way down to digital learning. And that's going to be assessed by means of a controlled task and what is called a structured discussion, short structured discussion. Now, when there were discussions about should there be a confirmatory test for digital literacy, it was felt, well, how do you actually assess, right, basically digital learning through some kind of confirmatory test? It's virtually impossible. So the decision was made to have a confirmatory structured discussion which would give the learner the chance to explain and evaluate and reflect on why they use a particular digital literacy tool, because we know with digital literacy it's emerging technologies all the time, and different learners will use different packages to do different things. So whilst the specifications don't want to be prescriptive, at the same time they want to encourage learners to decide what's the most appropriate tool to use for them. Okay? The next big lesson with this is that whilst there are 6 strands to digital literacy, and this is a key word which we'll hear a number of times today, they're being assessed holistically through the controlled task. So they're not being assessed individually, they're being assessed holistically. All right? But that doesn't affect you today, so I won't go into more detail than that. Last but not least, there's the essential employability skills, which replaces the wider key skills. Again, there are 4 strands, okay? And those 4 strands, again, are assessed through a single controlled task holistically. All right, that's the key word which Welsh Government, as they were then, particularly like. They want to try and get away from putting things in little boxes. They want to say, right, we want to get our learners to look at things holistically, because that's what happens in the real world. So it's a controlled task, holistic assessment, assessing the 4 skills, which I just mentioned, the 4 strands, together with a short structured discussion. Okay, so as you can see, the portfolio approach before, rightly or wrongly, was deemed to be, not quite as rigorous enough, needs to be made more rigorous. But it was the same assessment across all skills. What we've now got is a mixture of controlled task, confirmatory discussion, and confirmatory test. So there's a different way in which they are being assessed.